All right, welcome to chapter 10, where we actually get to have some real fun and do some more advanced things. We're going to be talking about interactivity with cascading style sheets and, of course, JavaScript. And, just as a forenote, the CSS interactivity has its place. However, mostly that stuff will be done with JavaScript. So, pay particular attention to getting to know maybe a little bit of JavaScript and be able to use it. However, CSS is a good start. CSS, working with the interactivity of CSS can be a very helpful start for people that are new, especially people that don't really have a grasp of programming languages and how that interacts with HTML. But we're going to be also talking about some of that today and doing some of it. So, yeah, let's begin. So some of the objectives, we're going to be able to work with the CSS transform, moving things around on the page. Animations in CSS, that's, playing like a movie or fast going through different frames with speed to create the animation. So we'll be working with keyframes and setting up what frames are played when, etc. Then, of course, a bit into JavaScript, describing it, what it is, what it allows us to do, and being able to use JavaScript itself, and where the code belongs, and why it belongs there. Because JavaScript was one of the first ways that we could break out of like things like Flash and all the other Java applets, all those old way of doing things, and now we have JavaScript that replaces it all. And JavaScript is kind of right now the king of interactivity and working within, on the client side within what is shown on the screen and how the user interacts with it. And working with some of those interactions would be things such as event handlers. And the main thing would be using the on-click event handler and how events work. So we're going to be going through a lot of that stuff. Being able to create JavaScript functions and in a file itself. So we'll delve into that shortly. So when we think about interactivity, that's pretty much a must. A lot of modern websites rely on interactivity, and not only that, but some of the newer technologies that work with JavaScript, like React, require or make it easier for the user to understand, in real time before they hit the go button, while they're tapping in data. We can show them that, hey, what you typed in is not what was expected. Real time as they're making the error for data input. That's one way that React really, of course, user input and forms interaction. That is where JavaScript really comes into play to create a dynamic website. However, we can get quite a bit of ways using the CSS itself, and you guys have been working with that for a while. So we're going to work with the transform property. And what the transform property does is allows us to move things along in the page, in different locations of the page. We can also do animated captions, animations with CSS. And the CSS also has the ability for us to implement a menu option for like a hamburger menu option. That's the you know, you guys use it all the time. It's shown up here in the upper right, the hamburger icon for options when going to a website. A lot of times we will find as the technology improves, we will have more standardization of different things. You know, hey, maybe in 10 years, this isn't a hamburger icon, it's a fruit icon or something. Who knows? The technology also goes with trends. And this is having the hamburger menu option is a trend that's widely accepted and used. All right, and of course we can use JavaScript to display video, so we're going to be getting into that. Adding interactivity to a web page means that we move things around on the page. We have things animate, play through several motion or frames, have the ability to have that hamburger menu, and then of course work with JavaScript, the programming language JavaScript. So one thing about CSS is that yes, it's growing, and they are taking on more of what JavaScript used to do or still does better than CSS. However, it's more of like a leap between people that aren't as skilled versus people that are skilled will just use JavaScript to implement these things. CSS, however, has its place because it's easier to implement than the language, JavaScript. So we're going to be able to rotate, skew, or move block elements with that transform property. And here is an example. So say that we have our original CSS property or element. It could be an image. It could be, you know, just think of it as a box. We can move that box around with the translate function. We can scale it, shrink or lower the size of it. We can rotate it and we can skew it using the, you know, using the different CSS capabilities that are given to us. And that is one way we're going to be exploring CSS in our lab. Okay, JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language that was built or started getting use and has steadily gained more use and been built upon. But the reason for it was an answer to a better answer than like Flash type programs and Java applets and stuff like that. This is actually embedded in the technology itself. And what it does is the web browser is allowed to interpret the code that you give in your script. And so Chrome was built with the ability to interpret the JavaScript instructions as part of standardization of browsers, you know, Firefox, etc. And the whole reason for it to exist is to dynamically change your HTML tags and add interactivity with the user. So that means that JavaScript can look for like maybe a mouse click and decide, oh, I want to modify this HTML tag to show this instead because the user clicked down here. So here's the key thing about it. It's developed to modify your HTML. Your elements, your HTML elements have to exist to be able to be modified. So that means that JavaScript actually goes at the end of every HTML page, right before you end the body. Now, the book tells you in the header that's totally flat out wrong. We don't put JavaScript in the header. That's a new thing that they've been trying to push. I don't know why, but the whole reason for JavaScript to exist is to change the HTML, which has to exist as elements before you can allow the script to modify things based on user interaction. or even just based on loading the page. You can write a script to do something, or you can create a dynamic menu that moves in a slider menu that slides across, and you click on the arrow over here, it slides the next image in. So that interactivity would be done the best through client-side JavaScript. And to get your feet wet into it, of course, we're going to work with that CSS stuff, or CSS implementations. But I mean, CSS is severely limited in what it can do. So then you would go towards JavaScript. So here's an example of JavaScript slideshow. All right, the hamburger icon we can also implement with JavaScript. And here's an example of the hamburger icon. And also another thing is, because of the limitations that CSS have, we need to use JavaScript. We can actually use JavaScript to create 2D games, and guys, it's crazy, but 3D games right in the browser. That's how far it's come, and it's not going anywhere ever. It will always be the foundation of the client-side programming within a browser for interactivity. The newer technologies that come out, like React, are built on top of JavaScript. In other words, it's just a library that uses JavaScript in creative, innovative ways to solve a problem of quick development that implements user interactivity with, like, input, some kind of text input, etc. So we need to talk about some terminology. A statement is basically a line of code. It gives instruction, and the browser's JavaScript interpreter interprets that instruction, and the programming code, we will treat some things that we get from JavaScript, like libraries, as an object. That you won't be too heavy into it, but when we refer to an object, we're referring to an entity that includes data and the actions to perform on that data. And you can think of it as a block, and we'll say watch. And inside that watch block is the ability to, is the data hours, minutes, seconds, and then a function or a behavior that allows us to change the hours, minutes, and seconds by using that function in JavaScript itself in our main function where we're actually doing stuff. Mostly objects are built by other people that we just use. And then, of course, properties are attributes that are applied to the data that's inside that watch, like hours, minutes, seconds, or any kind of other data. Now, when we think about objects and properties, just think of it as properties are both its data and how that data behaves within an object. All right, now a method is not the full, data and behaviors. Methods are functions. That's just the behaviors. What is actually done in that object, what it can do, and what you actually call on to perform a task. We also call those functions, methods, arguments that can be passed to a method so that we can tell it how to do a specific job. And then, of course, we can get back an answer from that method. Now, this isn't a full JavaScript programming course, so we're not going to get too heavy into it, other than, working with a variable, which is data that we will hold in our script, and then an event that we will look for, like maybe the user clicks on the screen, and we have a method that automatically runs when the user clicks on that screen, or and that will perform some kind of action. So that'll also be part of our lab. All right, syntax rules and guidelines. JavaScript is case sensitive. So if you create a variable with capitals, you have to use it with capitals. You can create comments in your code with 2 forward slashes, but every time you make a statement, you have to end it with a semicolon so that the interpreter that runs the script knows that you've ended a line. And you give it instructions, and the end of the instructions needs the semicolon, and then the interpreter knows, hey, these are my instructions. This is the end of this particular sequence of instruction. And so you would have multiple lines. Now, this says when created, you're going to refer to an external JS file for your script. Yes, but it says to put it in the head element. This one, it upsets me. And they're not even showing you the example on how to properly defer the reading of JS until the end of the HTML script has been, and all the elements have been loaded onto the page. So the idea here is your JavaScript cannot change any elements until you've created them in your HTML. So you would put your script down below, and your HTML would be above in the file. The interpreter comes in, does all the HTML stuff, adds that, renders it to the page, sets up the elements, and that's called your document object model. And then another interpreter will then interpret your JavaScript. And that will then be applied to the HTML elements, so that the whole idea of JavaScript is to change the elements you create up here. So this is top-down programming. You got to create the element first, then you put in the JavaScript down at the bottom, right at the last part of the body tag, to change your elements. And my hands are kind of going in and out here, and so the JavaScript has to be down here in the file, so that it knows what elements to change, because the interpreter has already read those elements in, and that possibly not rendered yet. It's probably waiting for instructions. If there's any JS, it will start with that rendering based on what's in the JavaScript. So the document object model is all the elements that the web browsers and the web browser has created when it's trying to render your page. So every element, and that means every HTML tag, everything is an element. It could be a div tag, so you can also review the elements on an HTML page using, and then let's just look at this. Let's look at the elements on your assignment page. So we can go over here, we can go to More Tools, Developer Tools, and within it, we can go to any JavaScript that's being written on our page. So here's the page. Here's all the background stuff that happens when that page is rendered. And we can look exactly at the elements and click through here and see what each element is. And we can give IDs to those elements so that we can use JavaScript to access and get those elements to modify them dynamically after the HTML has been read and implemented at the browser level. And then JavaScript comes in and can use those IDs, like this div ID, nav tray, so we can do a get element by ID so that we can access this div element and modify the div element's properties so that it can do different things on the screen based on what happens when inside of our JavaScript. And that's the idea of JavaScript, to dynamically change your HTML tags. That's what it does. Your HTML tags have to exist first before you can write a script that modifies them, because you're going to create the element, give it an ID, and then JavaScript will use that ID to modify it. So that's why your script always goes at the bottom of the file right before the end of body. And within your, I'm sure the lab is going to mess it up too, but seriously, they're heading in this direction with, where the JavaScript file goes, but it goes at the end. Okay. Let's go back to our PowerPoints. That's how we can work with our DOM. And let's actually, let's sneak back there. So I can select on my, here, and it will actually, whatever DOM it is, there's the whole page, the body class, and the ability to grab that. Some of them, sometimes you can go in here and you can click on things to get their actual elements. And we may need to actually go to a different page. Let's see what this place has. This has just more tools, developer tools. Let's look at elements. It looks like these ones are, here we go. We had some light up here. There, right there. So it looks like that one is purely visible. So this is a whole element that may and the thing is here is elements can also contain elements, and those elements can contain elements. So keep that in mind, and you can examine them, of course, using the click on the three dots over here, then you go to more tools, then you go to developer tools. Okay, back to our PowerPoint. The DOM is all the elements on the page that are going to be rendered. And we can access all those elements by assigning them IDs either in their CSS or, by assigning those elements IDs. And so a lot of different elements go on a web page. We know we have the body and the head. Those are elements. Inside the head element, we have more elements. Title, meta. We can give all these guys IDs to access them with code to modify and change their properties, change their color, their background, their text, their font, and a background image, or show an image. And there's all kinds of different things that we can do dynamically after the HTML is up to be rendered. Just before rendering it, the JavaScript is looked at, and then it goes. Or just before. So these are the different functions that we will use to access these elements. We can grab all elements that have a specific class name, and we would send the class name of the elements that we want to access and dynamically change their HTML properties of. We would put that as an argument between these parentheses. Then we would send, or we can use this one where we send just the name of the element. Or we can create tag name IDs, and we can get elements by a specific tag name, and that would be your ID equals. So this is more of grab all elements of this class name or this name, and then we can also use query selector to also return lists of elements, all elements that are available to us to work. So these ones will be the ones that you use most of all. These get elements by specific tag name and name versus using query selector all with all the elements, or just some of the elements depending on your argument. So we consider each element in the DOM tree, and it's built up like a tree because elements can contain elements that can contain elements. And you can use JavaScript, those particular selection functions to select specific elements in the page to dynamically change. And these are the functions that you would use. Remember, each function also has an argument that you would that you would send it to tell it what to select. Okay, we also have the ability to use if-else statements that look for whether something is true or false and will run a statement of code versus another statement of code depending on a specific condition on whether something is true or false. And that's where we evaluate an expression with the equals operators or the not equals operator, less than operator, greater than operator. And again, we're going to be just kind of briefly getting into some of this. This isn't meant to be a overall, this is meant to be an introduction to JavaScript. Now, jQuery is a library built upon JavaScript. It would be, and the reason for it being built was to make things easier to work with, and you can kind of think of it as JavaScript shorthand notation. It's kind of like Python and the C relationship. You know, Python is kind of shorthand code for C programming, a C executable. jQuery is a library built on top of JavaScript that actually just uses JavaScript, and you can use that library to get access to JavaScript functions and methods and properties with a shorthand notation, so it makes it quicker to develop the code, easier to remember. It's just kind of another way of using JavaScript. However, before you use jQuery, it's best to learn JavaScript first, and then you can start using the shorthand notation because, I mean, you wouldn't know what's going on underneath jQuery itself. Now, a new library that's just come out is called React for JavaScript. That's going to be React JavaScript. Now, what React JavaScript is, it's a library for easier interaction between users and control and forms. So it's a way where you, as you're filling in a form, it dynamically tells you whether your data is the user, whether what they're entering is good or not. Or it can be, you know, any kind of interaction that happens between the user and inputting data or getting data back, or any kind of interaction, and it's just another library that can be used for that purpose. But it's mostly meant for working within JavaScript input-output form-based reactivity, meaning as you're entering data, the app looks at the data and tells you in real time whether the data that you're entering is good or not. That's one of the main uses for React. And also, not just that, because when we think about data entry, input, and output, that's what we call a user interface. And so if you're writing JavaScript that is heavily user input and output, build an interface using React, because a lot of that is all prepackaged for you to easily use. But again, this goes to, well, we need to kind of know what JavaScript is before we can get to React, because React is just built on top of JavaScript. It uses all JavaScript functions, native JavaScript functions. So you could build React yourself. You would just build the library that uses JavaScript, and it would be just kind of a slicker, easier way of working within that JavaScript ecosystem. Oh, didn't mean to show you my email. Sorry about that. That's okay. Okay, we should have been through pretty much everything here. We're going to do these specific things in our lab, and I'm going to, of course, talk more about it when we get to the lab. But until then, I'll be back in a little bit. See you soon. All right, we are in chapter 10, number 2, and this looks like we're setting up a hamburger. And right here, where we set up this element, This is going to be our hamburger method that runs when the user clicks on the hamburger icon on the web page. So we're just setting up the menu links that are going to be used in the hammer or the hamburger function. So not only is the menu being declared here, but also what happens when the menu is clicked on. All right, now I have this. We're going to put that in all our files, and since this is something that is going to be important for our users, this is going to be one of the first things we put into our body. So I have on the desktop our website that we've been working on, and every file in there I'm going to be putting that into the body, including the template. So I'm going to say open with code. So all those files will open up for me. All right, and then I can just kind of go through them one after the other and go into the body tag. And it looks like we got our header here. We have our main. We've got our normal menu options. Then we're going to be adding into our body, the beginning of our body, our hamburger options. That's going to be, let's see here. Where does that body start? Do we even start a body on here? Control F. We have to have a body. Let's see where we're at. Body. Okay, so there's our start of the body. Is this one, there's no beginning of the body? Okay, let's keep going to the next one. There we go. Oh, I must have just been silly. Okay, it's right at the very beginning. Okay, whatever. All right, now for me, I would rather have the CSS loaded first. And so I would put this after the header. No, let's just throw it here. That's kind of what the instructions are saying. Now I'm going to have to change this to my particular files that are not, like yours. My file names are going to be changed a little bit. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm doing right here. So that should be HTML. HTML. This is just for me, guys. You might have something else. And what we'll do here is I've got index, I've got lessons, I've got instructors, I have rentals, good, and contact us. All right, now I'm going to go to every file's body and do this. Now that I've got this one, so I'm going to do Control S to save this. Then I'm going to go Rentals, find the body. Yes, I was being silly. Control V, Control S to save this. Go to Rentals, back, might as well. Control V, Control S. Oh no, this is a back. We don't want to mess with the back. Let's just close that down and not save to it. Index, good. Control S, save. Let's get rid of this window. Template, definitely. Control V, Control S, save. Lessons looks like, is that the last one? Probably. Control V, Control S. Now, okay, that does it for number 2. Now we're going to go back to our instructions here. And we want to do number 3, apply the tab desk class to the nav element. Below in the mobile rule style section. So this one, number 3, is to apply the tab desk. Now what I think this is style rules below the nav style rule and the mobile style rules section. Okay, so styles.css. We need to add our menu links. So this is where we're going to start tying in our elements that we just put into the CSS for the hamburger icon. And let's look up above, and you see here, this is mobile nav, but it looks like we're going to be using a tab desk as part of it. And now this one's a simple one. What we're going to do is we're just going to add this. That's number 3. That's number 4. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. Apply the tab desk class to the nav element below the header element for all HTML files in the music folder. Okay. Oh, I'm being silly. Yeah, that one actually is pretty easy. Now we're going to do it to all HTML files again. Okay. I was getting ahead on number 4 for some reason, being silly. Let's see here. What would that look like? All right. Let's go into our Visual Studio Code. We're on Lessons. Now we already have a class for this, so we're talking about this menu down here. And we need to apply a class to it. And we're going to do this right after the nav. So we already have this as an element itself, this whole grouping. And it says to apply it to the nav class. And so we already have the nav. Now we just need to give it a name. And that way, this might be for something that we're going to do later on. We'll see. Okay. Tab desk. All right. There we go. That looks right. I'm kind of referring to the book here. Let's use this as a template. And let's make this easier. Let's just copy what we need to put inside. Okay, so I'm going to go Control S, go down to here, inject this in. Needs a space evidently. Control S, go to my next one, inject in the name nav class into our menu options, or our links, our website links. We're going to use that in CSS in some way. So we're going to use this div class. All right, where are we? Oh, right here. Okay, space, Control V, Control S. Good. No, that's PHP. We don't want that. Contact us. Did we do it? Yes, we did. Okay, Control S. There. All right. We got that done. Let's go ahead and bring up the index, just because it's good to also have the browser kind of. Oops, I did that wrong. I needed to open with Chrome. Okay, there we go. This is our index. Looks like the menu is needing some work. Might be some other stuff here. Let's go with, it looks like our Our menu went out. Well, we're still kind of, here's our hamburger. We can see it up here to the upper left. Oh, there's our menu up here. For some reason it's looking a little bit snarly. I might have to fix that a little bit. Okay, we'll come back to it, but we've got our hamburger. We're looking at what we're changing. Let's go ahead and move on. So I've put in the hamburger. We haven't told it what happens when we click on it yet. No, that's not the hamburger. The hamburger. We haven't told it what, this function has not been implemented yet. That we have to do. We've added a special category to access our menu options. So we'll look into that in a little bit. And then now we're on number 4 here. Let's bring up number 4. Let's see, number 4 is on the browser. Looks like we're doing this inside of our styles.css. So we're going to be declaring what these particular elements, how they are rendered for mobile-nav. And I believe that's what we just got done entering into here. Here's our mobile-nav. So we're going to be adding our CSS for the menu we just added. All right. So now let's go here. And number 4, looks like we need the code that's in your book to be typed in. Now you can just, usually copy it or type it in. I've got a version here that I can actually grab from. Make sure you double check your syntax though if you're typing. If you've got an ebook, you can directly copy paste. So that's going to be in styles.css. Where are we at? Oh, you silly goose. Where did I put my styles.css? I sure did. Okay. Styles.css is in styles, so I didn't open it up. We're not in scripts. It's in CSS, styles.cs. Okay, open with Microsoft, no, Visual Studio Code, you silly thing. Okay. We need to put in the instructions for our hamburger icon. So this is directly from your book. Here's the first one, the second one, and the third one. Okay, Control S to save. Let's go back to Chrome and see what changes we got. I'm going to say refresh here so I can see it redrawn, and you see what it did. So we put our menu and associated it directly with our hamburger. Now our hamburger still is not working, and we still got some issues here that we probably need to fix. It looks like this might be, let's see, this might be doing all right, but we might have some other issues that we fix. If I go home, you see it's kind of like this. So I'll look at that, but it looks like instructors is looking good. I may not have made the changes in instructors. Let's double check on that. Let's double check. Let's look at Visual Studio instructors. Did I add it? No, it's not in the body. So sure enough, it's not looking weird like everything else. So we're still in the process of getting this done completely. I think it goes all the way there. All right, Control C. Go to instructors, body, boom, Control V, Control S. No, I just must have missed that one. All right, yeah, always be looking at, as you're doing your changes, just kind of look at what's going on, just out of curiosity. So now everything has that uniformity, and we're probably gonna, with something as we go along, fix that, or we'll just deal with it later. All right, now we're on number 5. Number 5 is in the mobile style rules section. So this is for the navigation selector for a tablet media query. Move the style rule for the nav UL selector to the tablet media query below the comment for the tablet nav area style rules. So this is going to be in our styles.css file. And we're going to make a change and move the style rule for the nav UV selector. All right, let's go here. Let's go to the styles. Let's go to the nav UV selector. First, I got to find it. Well, Control F, nav, UV. Oh, not IV, UV. No results. Okay. Nav U. There's only nav UL. Let's see what I'm doing wrong here. Oh, this is for the nav UL. Why? Nav UV? No, you silly thing. Yeah, the instructions, it looks like the instructions aren't, I might have read it wrong. Oh, geez, look at me. Okay, let's go back to it. Nav UL. Okay, not V. Sorry, guys. That happens. All right. Move it for the nav UL selector to the tablet media query below. Okay, so we're going to go to this guy and move it. And it says move, not copy. So that means to cut it out and move it down here to the, is it the tablet viewport section of our CSS. So it looks like we're going to only follow these rules when we're in tablet mode. Here's our tablet section, and we can just chunk it in here somewhere. Okay. Control S. Okay, we're done with 5. Woo, yippee! And the mobile rules selection, delete the style for, okay, the nav LI. All right, so we're going to go to the nav LI for number 6. Wherever it's at here. Okay, but only for the LI selector. So the nav LI selector, and it's going to be, where's it going to be? It's going to be in what default? Let's go back here. Oh, skipping ahead. Shouldn't do that. It's going to be in the no, we did that. In the mobile, delete the style rule in the mobile style rules section. Okay, so remember the mobile is by default. So we don't have a section for mobile because it's the CSS. We're using the file itself for the rules. So that's going to be in the general. It's not going to be in any of the viewports. So that's going to be out in our general stuff. So I'm going to do a search for nav li. Okay. And this is in the tablet viewport. It does not say to do it in the, 3 of 7. Okay, we don't do it in the tablet viewport. And all our viewports, aren't all our viewports at the very end of the file? Yeah. So if I go to the beginning of the file and search for the first one that shows up, we'll go to number 1 in the file. And this is towards the top, so it's in the general mobile section. So we just need to delete that. That's what it's telling us. Okay. Let's go. Get rid of it. There we go. Now this is nav lia, so that's not the nav li selector. That's the nav lia selector. Okay, Control S. All right, we're moving along. Number 7. In the mobile style rules within the nav li style rule, delete the padding declaration, the nav lia style rule. Okay. Delete the padding declaration. Move the remaining declarations to the tablet style rule for nav li selector. Delete the empty style rule for nav li within the mobile section rules section. Okay, so this is, let's do number 7 here. And that means that we're actually going down towards the bottom because we're going to be in the tablet section. And specifically the tablet nav li. And we're going to delete the padding declaration in nav li of the general mobile rules. Actually, so we're not in tablet view. No? In the mobile style rules section with the nav li style rule, delete the padding declaration. Move the remaining to the tablet style rule for the nav li. Okay, let's just go in, and it looks like we are editing the mobile style rule section, and so I was incorrect. It's going to be towards this. So we're just going to actually, the same one that we've edited, we're going to remove the padding. So this is going to be the mobile rules section, not in a viewport. Not for tablet or anything else, for the general website. Which defaults to mobile, by the way. I'm sure we've talked about that. Okay, that's number 7. Number 8, in the mobile style rules section, add menu links as another selector to the tab desk style rule, which with the declaration that sets the display to none. So let's see, number 7. Okay, so in other words, we just take this, cut it, and move it to looks like the tablet viewport. Move to the tablet style rule for the nav li sector. Move the remaining declarations to the You know what we can do? Let's do this, because it says to remove the declarations not delete the whole thing. Well, maybe. Okay, we're going to copy it. And let's see over here. Just processing this instruction right now and kind of looking at the book and what we should be doing. This one's interesting. Okay, let's go back to those instructions. With the LIA, delete the padding. We did that. Move the remaining declarations to the tablet style rule for the nav LIA selector. Delete the empty style rule for the nav LIA within the Okay, so yeah, it was just cut it out and move it. It's just kind of confusing. The instructions are kind of confusing. Okay, so now what we do is we're going to go to the tablet viewport and we're going to just put this nav li in it, and then we got one more, we got a couple more. Okay, so this is tablet. Okay, we're going to just throw it right here. Okay, all right, now let's go to number 8. Okay, number 7 is done. Number 8, we're going to go and we're going to modify the tab desk class. And your for the mobile and the menu links, add menu links as another selector to the tab desk style rule with a declaration that it sets the display to none. All right, what we're going to do then is we're going to go to our regular links. I'm going to Control S, save that. We're going to go to our regular links here, and what we're finding is the tab desk. We need to find the tab desk, or we need to add it. Let's see if we have tab desk at all in here. So let's do this. Dot tab. Oh, it went right to it. Okay, now is this in the general? Tab desk. This, I believe, there's 3 of them. And we need to be in the mobile section, so it would be the first one. Because remember, our other sections are at the bottom. So it looks like this one right here, we're going to add an ID value to the menu links. Okay, Control S. All right, and that's 8. Number 9, we're gonna create an H1 style rule, and that's going to be as a default mobile as well. And I think we've already got an H1 style in our styles. So let's find our H1 style. H1. Is that it? Header H1. Header H1 style rule. We need to add those 3 things: font size, padding, margin right. Okay, so it looks like, and I this. I copied this from my ebook. So I'm going to. It looks like we got to set it to font style italic, and it looks like. Let's add a font family here because that might have been a step we missed. We're going to do DM. Serif. Oh, this is just me. DM serif display, comma, serif. Okay. Now we're gonna. That's us declaring and giving a heading to the font family we're going to be using. Okay, now save. Let's go ahead and do that. This is what your H1 header should look like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4%, 50%, that matches the book. Okay, we're good. Now number 10. In the tablet media query, tablet style for header content, add a new style for the header 1 selector. And the tablet media query below the comment tablet viewport. Okay. Let's see. So we're on number 10. It looks like we are going to go down to the tablet section, and we're going to add a mobile nav tag for selection and display. And we're gonna, if it's a mobile nav tag, it's not going to display anything. And then let's look at that, because you see here when we added our mobile nav, we're going to by default not show these things because this is our hamburger menu. So what we're doing is we're saying, hey CSS, when you start up, don't display these items because they're only going to be displayed when we click on that hamburger. And that's kind of one of the mechanisms that enables it to happen. The reason why JavaScript is better than doing this kind of thing is because you don't have so much back and forth between entities. Like, JavaScript, you can do it all in one spot. Here we're mixing CSS tags between different states on when the page loads, if you click on the hamburger icon or not, that sort of thing. So the default state is not to show the hamburger icon menu, which is what we expect. As every website that you guys use, you have to click on the hamburger to get the menu. So now we're going to go in here. We're going to add this class. So anything that is a mobile navigator, we're going to say not to display. So it's going to look like this. Now is it still in the tablet or we're going to add the display? They just do it in the mobile style. That makes sense. Menu links and the mobile rule style 9. Now this is interesting. It's in the tablet media. Okay. So we're going to control that behavior in the tablet media. Maybe we will show it if you don't click on it or not in the mobile. We'll see. Kind of just making guesses here depending on what the lab says. And I like to go through these things dry so that you see the process that I do to solve these things. Okay. So let's go to the tablet. And that's right there. I think that's the tablet. Yes, it is. And this is something we're adding. So we're going to put it right here. Oops. I didn't get the right copy for my textbook. Here we go. Oh no, that's the wrong thing. All right, both mobile and mobile nav, display none. Don't display the hamburger. That's what I'm interpreting with our instructions so far. Okay, to the mobile style rule, that means it already exists. Oh yeah, I messed that up. So we already have the mobile right here. So we just need to add this tag to what already exists. So both the mobile and the mobile nav. Now, since we're using classes, we have to do a comma here. All right. Control S. Now we're dealing with the tablet and some of the style rule for the header content. So we're going to go to the H1 selector, the tablet view, and set the margin and the padding to 0. That's number 11. Margin padding. So we're going to look, we're still in the same section of the tablet section. And we're going to go to the H1 header. And hopefully I've got this right. This is for the desktop viewport. H1. That's interesting. Header H1. Is that normal? I'm kind of going back to instructions because it says here in the instructions that we should already have it here. I may have mistakenly not moved it. Yeah, I get silly like that sometimes, guys. I apologize. Let's make sure. Delete the padding, remove the ring. Selector, no, that's nav li, not H1. Okay, you know what? I'm going to make some determinations on number 11, and I'm going to, look into it off screen here for a little bit. Also, probably take a little mini coffee break. I'll see you guys soon. All right, well, it says a new style rule for the header 1 selector in the tablet portion of your style CSS. So we just need to go and look at this one that's for this tag, which is for the mobile, the default behavior. Let's just copy that one and throw it down here and make some changes to it. So we're going to go to our tablet portion of the viewport, or the tablet portion of our CSS. Here it is right here, and and it's new, so we're adding it in. And it wants us to set that sets the margin and padding to 0 and font size to 2M. Okay. 2M. Uh, 2M altogether. Padding 0. It tells us to set it to 0, doesn't it? Yeah. Oops, wrong thing. 0 and 2M together. That's how you put in the size. Okay. Now it doesn't want us to do anything else than that. So, because the other, it's already going to take this on as default, because we're doing it for all H1 headers, in the mobile, in the, by default section of our, in the mobile section, basically the rest of the whole file, what's on top, since we put our sections down below. All right. Now is that all they wanted us to do for that? Margin and padding only. All right. Number 12. Here's where we get to the fun, guys. We get to finally set up a function that tells the hamburger menu how to behave. So let's go ahead and get into that. We need to set up a script folder on our website. So I'm going to go into my website folder, and we have a scripts folder already. So we're going to actually create a script that we're going to reference from our website. And the script is going to be called script.js. So I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to say new text file. Now make sure you have your view extensions, show extensions set up, file name extensions. And then I'm going to rename this script.js. And it's just a text file with a different extension to it. Okay, now I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to say open with Visual Studio Code. And then that's going to allow us to write some code that our website's going to use. Okay, now let's go ahead and go back to our instructions. Add a single comment. All right, add a multi-line comment to lines 1 through 5 that includes your name and today's. Oh golly, okay. This is going to be the comment that we make. So we're going to start this with a /*. This is a multi-line comment. We're going to say author Joshua B. blah blah blah, date, description, all kinds of stuff, and then we're going to finish. So fill out as stated from your book what needs to be done, and then I think it wants you to do a single comment. Add a multi-line that includes add a single line comment on line 7 with the text hamburger menu function. So this is going to be the program description, script description. What does it do? What does the whole script do? The author, the date, what does the script do? Then we're going to go down here, and we're going to actually create this is a single comment, and this isn't code, guys. This is just documenting the code that we're going to write. So this is going to be the hamburger function that we're going to use for our menu. And we're going to build it right underneath it. All right. Now what the function is going to do is it's going to tell the element that we set up and gave a name to in the CSS menu links. Because here's the thing about JavaScript. When I was talking about how it changes the elements, well, part of an element is its CSS. So when you get the element, not only can you change the elements itself, its HTML tags, but it also changes the CSS that goes with it. So whatever you have given, if you gave that element an ID, you can get that element by that ID so that you can manipulate that element dynamically just before the browser renders your page. The JavaScript is looked at to determine any changes last minute that needs to happen. And then, so what we're doing is we're saying, hey, here's our script, here's a function, but we haven't called the function yet. We haven't described how the function is going to be used. We're just creating the function. And the function, what it's doing is it's getting the CSS, and let's look at it, the CSS in styles.css by ID. So it's going to get the menu item ID, and it can change the CSS and the HTML of it. So let's see, menu icon div, is that what it is? Let's look at it again. This one's menu links. Okay, so let's look at it. Might be just in the HTML menu. There's menu icon. Do they do links? Okay, so yeah, there's menu links here. And then also when we look at the HTML, that we added today, you see here, menu links. So when we use this JavaScript, we're grabbing this object that's part of the DOM, document object model, that builds up the website, and think of them as boxes. An element is a box with things that it contains. And you can grab that box by class, ID, there's a lot of ways that you can get that element so that your JavaScript that is below and is called can access that element by name and modify the CSS just before the form, or not the form, but the web page is rendered on the screen. And as the screen, it can add buttons for interaction, for event handling, and so forth. So this function we're going to add into our script. And let me grab that one out here. I've got it so I can copy it in. Of course, you guys can just paste it in, or you guys can just type it in. Okay, so this is going to go into the script file, and this is our hamburger function. Now you see what it does is it gets the element by ID, and then it makes a change based on other attributes that have been assigned. All right. It looks like it either blocks the menu itself, doesn't show it, oh no, it shows it or doesn't show it. And that's going to be dependent on whether we click on the hamburger. All right, let's see this. Control S. Let's continue on. That was 15, wasn't it? No, that was 13. That was 14. Now we're on 15. Okay, now what we're going to do, oh, they actually properly give you instructions on this. Thank you. Above the closing body tag in HTML. Good. Okay, we're going to add a script method, or we're going to reference the script so that JavaScript can load up into our page and do its instructions on our elements. And as proper, they tell it to add the script right at the end of the HTML page so it can modify those elements that you have. Now that script source, that's going to be right above the body tag, and it looks like this. We're going to go to, it looks like, where are we? We're going to do it in the index, and I believe we're probably going to have to do it in every file. We'll see. But we're going to do it in index first. Okay. And let's go down here to body. Right here. You see how we're putting it right at the very end? Okay, so this is where we are referencing the source, the source, and we're saying go to the directory that is being of the file that's being interpreted, and go into the scripts folder within that directory. That's this directory, guys. My website. It's doing it with implicit. It's doing it implicitly instead of us saying C:/ / whatever. We're just saying go to the current directory that our HTML page is being rendered from. Go into the scripts folder, load up, and work with script.js. And script.js will then be able to access your elements. Not load up, actually do the instructions in script.js. Complete what's there. And in this case, we're only defining a function. We're not actually giving it any commands yet to actually do something. It's just defining a function that modifies your CSS of your menu, your hamburger menu, to either show or not show. So what we're going to do here then is we're going to go back to our instructions, make sure all HTML files. Okay, that's as I thought. So let's go here. We're going to go down to the bottom. Right here. Contain it. Control S. Okay, we're going to go to template. Control V, Control S, lesson, Control V, Control S. Okay, I can shut that down. We'll come back to it later. Let's just save this. Oh, Control S on that. I made a change. Okay, and then it looks like this one needs to be changed as well. Control V, Control S. Okay, that's it. We're going to be working on that script some more. So let me load that up. Open with Visual Studio Code. Okay. All right. Let's bring this together because we're going to test something. We're going to test our menu, our hamburger menu icon. But let's look at how it's interconnected, and we'll go over here to just any web page and where we added the call of that function. Right here. This is the call of the function hamburger. What that's saying is there is a function within JavaScript called hamburger that you can call when the navigation is clicked on. And then we have to provide it with what the function is, the definition of the function, and then what it does when it's called upon. So let's go ahead, because this hamburger function, we could call it down here. We can call hamburger and call the function, but we only want the function called and change the CSS if the user does a click on an element in the HTML, and that element that it clicks on is the menu links element, which contains this. And not only that, but when should we show that? We should only show that when somebody clicks on that element. So let's see if we have any errors and if we have to fix anything. We may have to run it not in desktop mode. We may need to test it in tablet mode. We'll do that. We'll test it in both modes. Okay, let's go over here to the website and refresh. Okay. Where's our hamburger? Looks like this is looking good. There's our lessons. I don't see our hamburger, but that's okay. We'll look at things. All right, now, because the hamburger should be visible in desktop mode. Now this is interesting that we have this error and we can't see the hamburger on every one of our pages. Just for giggles, let's check the different view modes. I'm going to go over here to more tools, developer tools, and what I can do is I can choose what device I want to render this page under. And right here is already a device, mobile. There's different devices I can choose, but it looks like this is being clicked on. I went into debug mode. So what I can do is see what happens when that thing is clicked on and step over here to see what happens. And it looks like we didn't have any errors. So let's do this. Let's get out of. It may have caused a problem. Oh, that is an error. Hamburger is not defined. Okay, it's having a problem with finding the function. Now that's interesting because we may have to go towards another way of doing things because it's kind of circular. It's referencing the HTML itself is referencing the hamburger function, but it cannot find it. That may be because of this right here. For some reason, it's not finding the script that we have. Is our script here? Maybe I forgot to put the script in the contact us. So I can change my device. Let's go with an iPad. That's tablet. This is tablet mode. Looks like our hamburger is not working with tablets. It's not working with desktop. It's only working here, and it's having an error finding this function, which we defined already. And so what I'm doing is I'm debugging the HTML. I'm trying to find out what problems that are being caused. And right now, I found out that, hey, I have declared this navigation section that is our hamburger, but when I click on it, it cannot find this hamburger function, and that's because we have put the hamburger function and defined it down here. So everything's top down. So wherever you define something, it needs to be above if you're going to use it below. So we've got a little bit of circular issue here going on because it may be the next time that we click on it, it'll know. Looks like it's still having issues finding that function within the script. So then now what I got to do is let's look at the contact us script and make sure that we're including that script. So I'm going to go over here to contact us. We have our script that has our function. Oh, I called it script.js. Does that match? Script. Okay. And it opens up here. So it may be just the contact us that's messed with. All right. Let's try it on instructors. Yeah, look. See? So when you tap on the hamburger, this menu shows up. And the other menu is, it looks like it's repressed. It's got some issues here that I don't particularly like. That should not be showing. So it's not showing there. So it looks like some problems. Let's fix the contact us problem first. So I'm going to go over here into my folder. I'm going to go to the contact us folder. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to say contact us, open with Visual Studio Code. And then I bet you I just don't have that script in there. Yep, I didn't put it in. Okay, Control S. Now that that's in there, let's go back to our testing and developer mode. And it looks like we're still having issues. But that is for index. Let's see. Instructor, it looks like instructors.html, it's working. Index, it's not working. Cannot find the function. Did I even put it in there? Let's look at index. I might have forgot to do it in index. No, it is, but I might have forgot to save it. Okay, let's go back to testing. Looks like index is having a problem. Let's check lessons. Lessons is working. Lessons is working better than everything else. Instructors is having a problem. Probably something going on there. Rentals, it's working. Contact us, it's working. So rentals, and you know that's working. Lessons, working. Home is working. All right, well, to fix this issue, here's what I would do. And to make sure that, because it's seeing a problem, this is a circular problem with this function. So there's a couple ways to do this to fix this issue, because we are referencing a function before use. What I would do is we could take this nav class hamburger and put it below the script include, or what we could do is we could decide to read the script but defer actions on it until after the page has been loaded. And that way we can include the script before, because the problem is the script is not read in until down here, but we're calling the hamburger function here when there is no function to be found. So it won't run the first time, it'll error out the first time, but it'll run the second time. And that's just accepted, that's fine, because here's the thing about JavaScript and web programming is we can do crazy stuff like that because the Chrome browser is built to withstand errors, and dealing with them, it happily ignores it, and then the next time you click on it, it knows about the hamburger function because it's already loaded up the whole page, and script is there, script.js is there. So if I go back to my testing of the web page, I can close this down and then happily use it without the errors, but I'd have to go into debug mode. So if I was testing this on a mobile, it would just happily ignore that initial error that we got when we were in debug mode and continue on. And so this would be fine. There would be no problem here. We would only be able to see it, the error hit, the first time it's selected. And then after that, it knows what the hamburger function is, where it's at, because it's already gone through the whole file once. It's top-down behavior for every programming language, every tag-based or markup language, which is HTML and CSS. So one way to get around it, which is kind of improper, it's okay just to let the error ride. Unless you're in debug mode, then it'll drive you insane. But what you could do is you could defer. You can do a JavaScript defer script statement. So we can include the JavaScript at the beginning of the page, and so then it will be, the script itself would be read first, and it would know about the hamburger function, even though this is backwards from what it should be, because HTML, remember, needs to be down below, because JavaScript needs to be below the HTML that you're going to be dynamically changing, so that it can grab it by its tags, etc. But what we can do here is we can defer the implementation of the script so that the script can be read in before, so we can have this kind of circular behavior without the error. And I can go up here and just take this, cut it out, put it up here, do it first thing before we get into the tags, and say defer. Defer here, and let me make sure that that's right. Control S, save. Defer, yeah. And what that'll do is it should fix that initial problem. This one, we did this on index. So let's go to Control S and let's see if everything works without that error popping in on us that we can only see in debug mode. Normal people wouldn't see it. So I'm going to refresh this so it loads up the current changes. Okay, then I'm going to go over here. Looks like we don't have the initial error again. So, and then it knows about it. Okay, now I think the hamburger is only supposed to be in mobile, so you're going to have to test yours and make your screenshots from this example that I'm showing you, showing that you got the hamburger working. And this is a very simple example of the hamburger menu. I don't think the lesson's intended to have it on every page, actually. And I would, one other thing that I don't like is the lessons page. The lessons page, it works on the mobile, but there's something going on with the desktop portion of it. So what I'll do is I'll close this down and go to lessons over here. Oh, it looks like it's doing okay. Desktop is fine. Yeah, it does it. Okay. So the hamburger, and let's look at our CSS. The hamburger oh no, let's look at our HTML first. We'll do index. We have the script go up first so that we know where the hamburger function is. Remember, this is back-assward. I'm only doing it to show you how to fix that error. It's better to have it at the bottom and allow that error just to happen. And then on the second pass of the script, it'll know what the hamburger function is. Now, this portion is the mobile nav. And how does the mobile nav behave by default on a CSS, based on the CSS? And how is that different from the mobile version? So if we look at the mobile nav, in the default mobile part, it's going to describe. Let's look at it right here. Let's actually type in mobile nav. Oh, there it is. It brought it right up. Okay, so the mobile nav tells you, gives you instructions. It tells you to display it, and then the menu icon, and the menu icon is the hamburger. It has the width and height, the position, and the menu icon. It looks like, let's look at the menu icon right here. This is going to be CSS for the hamburger. And you set the height and width in pixels of how the hamburger is going to look. Now again, if you're using JavaScript, you could use a picture of this, but it's something added to CSS as a specific icon that you can use. And this is the part of the code that says, here's my menu icon. Or not code, but markup language. It is 50 pixels by 50 pixels. By default, show this, and this is how you show it. You use the display block. So that means, like, literally do it here. And it by default shows the hamburger. Now, it's not only until you go into the desktop mode, which is what I'm testing here now, unless I go into my debugger and switch modes, it's going to behave with the, what is it? Menu. The menu icon div is inside of the menu. It's not going to display the menu on the desktop version. Or this might be the tablet. What is this one? Okay, yeah, this is main, so it starts... What? That's weird. Oh, it's part of tab desk. That's for the tablet. And that's done actually in default. So then the tablet instructions are played off. So that looks like it's done in the general mobile. Those settings are done to display no menu. But then we go to tab desk down here. Where are you? Tab desk. Let's actually just do a search for that. Oh, okay. Yeah, block it. That's for your tablet viewport. Block it. Don't show the hamburger. So what we could do is we could get rid of this. There's a way to comment in CSS. I think that's the way you comment, something like that. But we could just, and this is for in styles. And we could play around with this and see what it does when we're testing for the tablet. So right here, I would go, I'd just do the iPad. Well, it looks like it's pretty well set up not to. Oh, wait, what file was that? Oh, that was every file. It looks like you just messed things up. You can get into a lot of circular, but in any case, we're using CSS to track or to keep track of when we decide to show or not the menu itself. And by default, we're setting it up as the desktop that we're not going to display it, and the tab that, oh, that's right, and the tab that we're not going to display it. We would have to add a little bit more CSS to get it to display it in a tab, because we're shutting it off in a lot of different, see, look, tab desk, block. And that's where it's saying, by default, we're in a small, we're in the mobile. Definitely, but this is the section in our CSS that means this is mobile, not general. Even though we've got that special set, we're saying show the hamburger. And then we reference that back to our menu links given the class menu icon. And so when you click on the menu that represents this element, you're going to run the hamburger function, which then tells the CSS to display by using the JavaScript. And let's go ahead back to our JavaScript by getting the menu links element and deciding to display it or not. So it actually is only built to show in the mobile viewport itself, depending on how they wanted us to set up the CSS. But that's how everything kind of links together on this. Now again, this is an introduction to JavaScript. It's not meant to be comprehensive. But I would suggest, working towards giving, in your book on some of the event handling portions of your code, or definitely venture on it, yourself. Look at the click event handler. We just implemented a click event handler, and so forth. All right, we're done with that part of the instructions. Now we're going to go into some other stuff here. I went on a little bit of a tangent. I apologize. Let's come back. Let's come back to some semblance of order and finish up these particular aspects of our file. We're going to be modifying and making some elements with CSS do different things, and then we should be done. All right. All right, we're gonna go into the next step here, and then delve in. We're gonna have some fun with the event handler today. Event handling. We're gonna go on a little venture after we finish up your labs today. But we're gonna add a transform to the styles.css, and we're on number 16 now, and we're going to add a transform portion or set of instructions to the styles.css file. And it looks like we need to go to styles.css and the nav lia hover style rule. So that is what happens when the mouse hovers over this element. And that's what that CSS is describing. And so what we're going to do is go to our CSS, and we're going to go, and we're just going to type in nav li. I think it's lia hover. Let's just do lia. There it is. Okay. What are we supposed to do? It looks like we want to transform the element we're going to scale it. We're going to change the scale, the size of the element. That's only when we hover over it. So let's look at this. This is going to be our transform instruction. We're going to tell it to scale the element by 1.2. I'm assuming that's going to be making it bigger. Now we can look up CSS scale using W3 Schools and look a little bit more into the use of the scale transform. And CSS School, or what W3 Schools, is an excellent resource for you guys to learn from. And it'll tell you all the different ways that you can use the scale function to change the size of the element and how much the element is scaled in X and Y, and then of course the Z direction skewing. If 1 is given, and this is, you know, as I thought, where 1 means don't scale it at all, 1.2 means make it 20% bigger. And that, if 1 value is given, it's going to be expanded, you know, and this is not 1, the value 1. 1 value means that it will scale by 1.2 times. All right, and then 2 values is where we can say, hey, X and Y, the length and the width, will scale by 1.2 times. So we could skew the scaling. We could have it, you know, go further versus our width. So X is top down and Y is left to right. And 1, 2, or 3 values is the you know, dimensions of the element that you're modifying. All right, so let's do that. I believe, and the hover over is going to be for, what is the hover over for? What element are we actually hovering over? Nav, and if we look at our code, any nav list items A. Okay, that means when we hover over, it looks like the navigation. Nav li. Well, where in our HTML do we have nav li? Okay, well, we get our style sheet. We got our links, some links. We have a mobile nav. And then that, you know, what we could do is let's just do this search, nav li. Okay, so we don't have a nav li on this page. Any navigation link items, A, that's nav lia. So any navigation link item A. Okay, so this is a nav li. So anytime we hover over our navigation link, and that's any nav li. There's no li here. So any class nav li a, so it's going to act upon these guys, the tab desk. So we can test this. Let's make sure that our styling sheet is right. Nav li a, hover. If we hover over it, nav li a, nav li a, hover. Let's just look for hover. There we go. And this is for the desktop. All right. Looks like we have our nav lia, we have our CSS. We can test this on the desktop. And what we'll do here is, it looks like we have a problem with our navigation. Interesting. Let's our navigation is not showing up. All right, guys, here's what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to look into this. I'm going to have to see, hey, what's wrong? And then when I come back, I'm going to tell you exactly what's wrong and how to fix it. But I don't want to take too much of your time looking at this and debugging it. That it's going to go a little too far. So I'll be back in a little bit and let you know what's going on. Okay, well, it turns out there was nothing wrong. I just hadn't totally saved my styles.css for the last change. So evidently in the editor something happened and I didn't save and update some of my files when I was testing them. So that just kind of points to the fact, test as you're making changes just to see kind of what's going on. Make sure that you save before you test. Sometimes I go file save and I shut the file down. I open it up. Sometimes you got to restart Visual Studio Code if you're starting to see weird things. But make sure your file's saved before you test. And now we have this example with this is with the 1.2 transform. You see how it's making it a little bit bigger. We can go up here to our styles.css and modify that to like 3, something like that, to make it even bigger. I just did Control S, by the way, so I'll do a refresh here and see how they're bigger. Okay. And what JavaScript can do is it can change those on the fly if you want, depending on, if you're having specific events. So you're somewhat always limited in cascading style sheets, and sometimes you get the circular issues going on like I described with the functions. And it takes a little bit of knowing what's going on and your hierarchy, top-down behaviors and definitions. But let's go on and let's do something fun. Let's actually apply an on-click method to an element on our page that does something. We'll make it, maybe show a message on the screen or something in JavaScript. So let's do this. We're going to find an example of an on-click method, JavaScript on-click. And this is going to be an event handler method that we're going to implement so that we're going to grab an element on the page and implement the on-click event on that element in JavaScript. And what we'll do is we'll probably just do it as a definition. So we'll do it so that there's a couple different ways of doing adding event listeners. to the actual to your JavaScript, and what you can do is you can get the object itself using the get element by ID, tie a function to it, and then make something happen in your JavaScript. Now this is an example where it's embedding the JavaScript right in, but what we're going to do is we're going to put this JavaScript in our file, and we're going to add or modify, we're going to add the ID of a div and then make a change. So let's do this. And this is just for fun. And we could make anything happen. So like a JavaScript pop-up, menu pop-up, we can make that happen. Depending on a different element. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here to the script file. And we're going to add that code in. I'm going to say open with Visual Studio Code. Now, this is a function, it defines it, but where it gets called is when you tie it from your CSS or in your HTML. Here, we're going to be just doing pure Java to both grab the object that we want to get on the page and add an event listener to it for when something happens to that object. So this needs to be runtime code. So we need to put it at the file scope, at the file, not in a function. We say, hey, grab this element, run the function, my function on it, and this actually should be down below the definition of the function. Because first the interpreter defines the functions, and then you can call on them. So we're going to call this do something. And the function that is going to run when we click on the element that we're tying it to by using the get element by ID, we're going to tie the onClick event to that element using its ID. And so let's go here to index.html and let's see, do we have an ID that we can use for some kind of click event? We have ID hero, and that is the banner of the border collie. Okay, let's do something when somebody clicks on the border collie. No, I don't like that. Let's do it for the intro. No, I don't like that. Maybe the image. That's where the image is at. So when we click inside of this, the image, we are going to do something. Okay, let's do that. Let's do it for the ID hero. So let's go ahead and go over here to our script, and we're going to say, okay, grab the hero element. Grab the hero element. This is where it grabs the hero element, and this will run the first pass through. The first pass through this script, it just defines this function, and then it does this. So there's a difference between definition code. Definition code will contain runtime code, but it has to be called. So we're just defining that function and what it does. But here we're actually saying do this. This is an actual statement. These are statements that only happen when the function is called. And we're saying, okay, when the hero element is clicked on, run and call the do something method. Then it goes back in, the interpreter goes back in and continues these instructions. It grabs the hero element and changes it to you clicked me. Okay, so that our code, our HTML is already set up to handle this. So I just did a Control S. We add the event handler. We tell it what to do the event on. And then we change the HTML of the element. So in other words, grab this guy, hero, and change what's inside to something else. And so the image should go away, and it'll just show us that text you clicked on me. Okay, so let's test it. Hopefully I don't have any total breakdowns here, like forgetting to save files. Okay, so now we're going to do a refresh. Okay, now I'm going to click on the border collie, and you see how it just redid it and say you clicked me. Okay, let's go to lessons. Border collie, you clicked me. Contact us. Border collie, you clicked me. Home, you clicked me. So it gets rid of the picture. It changes the whole inner HTML of that div, that element. And you can do anything there dynamically. Okay. I would look forward to seeing you guys in my JavaScript class if you want to play some more. And that's client-side programming. And then there's the server-side programming, PHP, where we learn how to do stuff on the back end. This is all front-end development work. And this is our last video. So I enjoyed having you all. Take care. Goodbye.